Blog Talk Radio.
Here at ACO Radio, American Communications Online, or any affiliated stations or websites are not responsible for what guests, hosts, or call-ins may say. All programming is intended for informational and entertainment purposes only.
Hello, world. Welcome aboard, all you ground troops spinning around smartly on the planet. We're all one species allegedly reported called Terrans, and we're going to talk about cosmos disclosure today. Ascension Center education, spiritual science, psychic mediums. What's that all about? We have questions. We're sharing our fifth dimensional changes while here in the Ascension Age. And I have a universal life coach, universal life master pastor of the entire universal order of our essence, and Knights of the Round Table. Richard T. Knight, we got all kind of people calling in today to participate, I guess, asking questions. What are we doing here today? So this is the Ascension Church Ohana, but I advertised it as Cosmos Disclosure, Richard, so this should be interesting. We will begin disclosure in education, information, involvement, knowledge involves alienology, cosmology, diversity, epistemology, history, philosophy, ufology, world expansion of multiverses, quantum theories of solving problems which our science can understand and measure. So, Richard T. Knight, do you feel up for the cosmos, letting people share our reality in this cosmos?
Well, yeah, I guess so. I mean, they're here, so naturally they're already sharing it per se in a way. It's all good.
Okay, well, we've got people calling in, and folks, this is Cosmos Disclosure for the higher realms. In case you're wondering, we're going to talk about the unity and diversity of all universal alliances. And we are now accepting that UFOs are real, and that aliens are real, and that we are they, and maybe the future, and the present, and the past. So, all of us may be parts of other DNA, and they say that a lot of our junk DNA is just ready to be awakened now that we're in the Ascension Age. So, Richard, with the people that may not know you, and we got Pastor Gigi Adams-Evans of Athens, Georgia, coming in the second hour, and it looks like, did you invite Marci?
Marci said that you invited her.
Cool. I didn't know that. Cool. Hey, Marci, how you doing?
I'm good. I guess the universe is going to have me come on Sundays. My hours have been cut short, and my car broke down. So it all worked out.
So does that mean you're supposed to be here today?
I guess so. I hear them singing behind me.
Okay. Well, folks, this is Pastor of Reno, Nevada, believe it or not. Her name is, I'll put Pastor Marci Kusich. I got to write you in here since you showed up, and that's Reno, Nevada, of all places. And I'll have to call Pastor Ken here, but I've got to call, wait, let me see if this is him. Hold on, maybe this is him. Is somebody calling in from Wyoming? This isn't Ken, is it? 307. Hello? Just listening? Okay. Well, they're just listening, but Richard, you and Marci tell people about the cosmos levels of what you are connected to and what you identify with, because I identify with the universe above Andromeda Galaxy and above Milky Way Galaxy. So I've worked with the Ennead 9, which is the Council of 9. I've worked with the Council of 12, the Ascended Masters, and I'll go through the Stargate Jesus portal if anybody's wanting to know, but that's mine and Richard's and probably Marci's. We got a lot of past lives, soul groups going on here. But we're going to talk about a whole bunch of heavy stuff in the cosmos. So, Richard, while I'm calling Ken, because I told him to call me when he may not be home from shopping. Let's give him a few minutes. Well, Richard, sort of tell people what you identify with. I told you, folks, I'm a CE5, meaning in the business of aliens and UFOs. But that's him. Hold on. Hold on. Hey, Ken, what world are you in?
Well, we just got home.
Okay. Well, I'll merge you. Can you let me tell Ken how to call in, folks? Richard, you take over, and Ken's fixing to call in. I'm gonna give him the phone number. If not, I'll merge him in on my phone. So you and Marci introduce yourselves while I talk to Ken and get him on here. Okay, I'm gonna mute me. I'm still here, folks. Just muting.
All right. Well, my name is Richard Knight, and I'm kind of a celestial being, so I've been told. I refer to cosmology as the celestial going outward and residing or emanating within the cosmos and all of the universes and all of the galaxies and all of the Ennead fields within therein. So basically, I communicate with all kinds of beings from all different kinds of dimensions and all kinds of galaxies and all kinds of different universes per se. I've been around for a very long time. I find that, aliens, of course, have always been among us pretty much, and they will be for that story there. Anyway, I have been to the other side and back a couple of times, and so I have seen at least what I perceive to be God or the supreme consciousness per se, and basically have come here basically to help others awaken or ascend, and that's where I'm coming from. Marci?
Hi, my name is Marci, and I usually am on during the weekdays. I used to work 3:30 to 9:30, but now my hours are cut short, where I work with mentally challenged people. I've also written my books. The one is the acronym of Theta, THETA, which is Living at Peace Among the Chaos, and it stands for Tarot, Healing, Energy, Tones, which I do binaural tones, which breaks up lower carbon energy to open up people's energy to allow more oxygen and raise your frequency, and Ascension. I have been doing energy readings. I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I channel the masters, in which they come in through and they do high-frequency tones to break up the sound healing, Reiki, which has been around for thousands of years. I also do tones and tarot and channel many, many messages on different people, past, present, future, and help people ascend, which means expand.
Ken has just joined us, folks. This is Pastor Ralph Kennedy Johnston Sr. He will be 78 this year. We're very proud to have him still on the planet, and he is a cosmos jumper in this solar system from this reality, Terrans, to Mars. Dr. Pastor Kennedy, I guess we'll call you Pastor Ken. This is Marci on here with me, Pastor Marci, and Pastor
Hello.
Richard. Hi.
Well, good evening or afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
Yeah, I'm just walked in the door and brought the groceries in, so we're ready to go.
Wonderful.
At least I hope I am.
Okay. Well, Pastor Ken, tell people about your history in your uniform at Pensacola, where the Blue Angels are, as a Marine, and then how you got to be a civil engineer and wear the astronaut uniform, training the simulation and the doing things like that, so people can get to know you better.
Well, you have a couple of weeks, and I'll go over everything. Oh, mercy. No, I
basic introduction.
there you go. No, I was raised in well, actually, Fort Sam Houston, San Antonio. My dad was a captain in the Army Air Corps during World War II, and then I wound up growing up in a little town called Hart, Texas, H-A-R-T, only 560 people. And then I left there and went off to, I lost a brother there. And then the older brother moved out, and that left me there. And it was time for me to move on. So I moved up to Oklahoma, went through the Oklahoma Military Academy, through high school and junior college there. And then on off to Oklahoma City University, got my degrees there. And then went off to the Marine Corps. And this, unfortunately, was back in the days. My best friend came in the dorm one night. He says, "Well, I joined the Marine Corps." And my brilliance, I said, "Oh, you can't go without me." So I went down the next day and enlisted. And we both wound up being shipped off to Vietnam. And then they discovered we were the sole survivors of our errors, so they sent us back to the States, which I can look back now and really appreciate how that went, because that's earthlings, humans that do bad things and stuff. So hopefully that. Anyway, so I went to work for the Grumman Aerospace Corporation and became a civilian astronaut because I was a pilot, and got to do all the testings in the back. I didn't do them all by myself. There were four of us that tested the lunar module and command modules in the big vacuum chambers there at the Johnson Space Center, so that we were recognized as the civilian astronauts. It was a lot of work, a lot of fun, and we still, well, those that are still with us, we're still good acquaintances and friends. Meanwhile, I guess we've made contact. We as Earthlings have made contact with extraterrestrials, and the question is knowing who's the good and who's the bad, and are we both? That's kind of the way I look at it, and do the best that I can to treat people, no matter what universe they came from, with respect, and you'll get respect. That's kind of a thumbnail real fast, if that'll bring you up to speed where I am now. Oh, I guess I ought to say I'm just about to tip over to 78 years old. That's all. I'm still young, I hope. Okay?
Good job. And he has also put in paperwork and had his going to Mars as an older gentleman, but we'll get into that and his memories of past lives and how he's been past life regressed, and has another book out there. But his book, Ken's Moon, K-E-N-S-M-O-O-N, is his memoirs and some beautiful pictures at NASA. And he's one of our pastors from Universal Life from years ago in California, and has agreed to help us, as he and Richard were reminiscing about their days up and down California, which I found interesting with Universal Life, because the Hensleys started that, and we're actually prayed over and actually ordained in the Universal Life Church. And then there's another one too. And we're working here together, and we formed the Ascension Center Church. It's Ascension Center Education, because it was always about the Ascension Age now, which we're doing, and going to start today talking about how we are universal lifers and there is no death. So, at least not the way we think of it here on the planet and in the cosmos. And we're going to share the 7 levels and the 7 heavens, and how we can all get to know those coming and going. Now, some of you may have seen the Greys, and there's some scuttlebutt out there on the myths and legends. And I'm going to tell you a little story that came from a UFO that landed in an Indian reservation long time ago. And the Indians don't usually tell about the UFOs because they know they're sky brothers. But this story got to be very well known on the planet and in this reality with the people we know. And especially since we've been talking about extraterrestrials among ourselves, but we've been talking about extraterrestrials ever since we learned to be conscious and to come from other places and other universes, and to come into what we know here on this as the cosmos. And here I'm going to bring you through the universes down to this universe, if you will, and then go, if you know about Mars, that's actually, I my universal level existence is working at a very high level with the Galaxy Federation. For this galaxy, we call the Milky Way galaxy, and we also work with Andromeda galaxy, and then even above that, and then we have those that protect. Now, a lot of people here on the planet can't see these, but we want to start coordinating all our myths and legends and that which hasn't been destroyed by cataclysm, earth, wind, fire, Mother Earth with the plates that go over. But, you know, how we'll get into all the things that are a little highbrow maybe later. But this is just the story that the people and the listeners will tune in for, and that is how Robert Morning Sky told the story that his grandfather was told by this UFO that landed before Roswell, and that these people were like from another place. They called it the Green Planet, and they said they were similar to dragonflies. So if any of you ever felt like you were close to dragonflies, there was the good and the bad and the ugly. So there were those that were of good, and somehow through generations of evolution, we were told that there was those that were of good nature, like angels with wings, and those that were of bad nature. So they're like winged angels. So we have the usual divide and conquer out there in space. So these are our stories, and now we've got all kind of stories about down here in this universe and even in this Milky Way galaxy. So that's where a lot of our people start talking about where the Green Planet. Now, the only odd thing is we started saying the bad guys were the reptilians. Now, I never met a reptilian. I would imagine I'd run the other way from what I've seen in the pictures on the cyberspace. There's a lot of stories out there, and then they allegedly...
I have cleared out reptilians. They're on the fourth dimension, and one person was in the UK, and her hands would shake. So it's a vibrational frequency. Sometimes they follow us for generations on energies. I have cleared out spells, curses, energies. And I also wanted to say that I was told I'm from Sirius, which is also where Christ and a lot of the masters are from. So with the high frequency, I have cleared out, but it is layer upon layer upon layer because they could shapeshift a lot.
Well, there's a lot of stories about the interdimensionals, and the story I'm telling is running a thread in the blanket that we call stories, myths, and legends that we can't prove. So these are thoughts like we have good thoughts and bad thoughts, like archons, which those, if you ever saw Star Trek, there was a story about the archons. But these are ancient stories that people that are in America have westernized this and put it in books, including Lynn Caston. And Lynn was one of the first ones to help me start this show. He came on my very first show, and he's written a book about these aliens. And he has been on Gaia with Regina Meredith, which I've never met, but I asked Richard if he was able to catch up on that at all. But we're not here to talk about them. But from there, we go over to Lyra, and there's stories about Lyra. And so there's all types of stories we're going to talk about that you may have heard of. And some of them have people that look like us, and some are blue and like Avatar movies, and some are like the Atlanteans and Mu. But there's a thread that we're painting in this reality, which will be left after we pass. Anybody that you're listening to on this radio, we hope this will be a database. But the Lyra people and then the Mu and the Atlantis story. So what we'll do is I'm going to create this round table, and Richard, I'm going to let you start it. And now remember, there's the good angels, and then there's through the portal Stargate, that a lot of us believe that God and the Yahweh God, and then there's the El gods. Okay, so they're all from different places. So hear what each person knows in their own mind, because this is being told in Gaia by younger people or by these people that have been hired by Gaia TV, GAIA, to tell various stories of books. And there's many, many stories that are being handled in television on YouTube. And so we're going to make our own books with what we know. But the L gods and whoever you relate to in this cosmos, including Ken, I'm sure you have a belief. And then later on when Pastor
Hello?
I'm still here. I think
I'm still here.
Now you're
okay,
back.
Ken
Yeah.
and Richard and Marci, I want y'all to talk about any of the God stories that you know about, and I'm going to mute. So, Richard, you are the round table leader. I'm going to mute, okay? So, stories about
we didn't finish the story about Morning Star.
Oh, the Morning Sky is the Indian story. So the Morning Sky is the most famous before Roswell in the reality that this group of New Age thoughts are experiencing. So all it was is the UFO came down. The grandfather told Robert Morning Sky about it. He became instantly sharing it around on the internet, and it became a book with Lynn Caston. So everybody can read that book about Lynn Caston, Len space Kasten. But Lynn is just one of those researchers, and he was with Llewellyn R. Bear Company, a publishing company book, which we publish our own books. But Lynn tells that story. He also told about going to Serpo, the people other planet, and a lot of you may also know the stories of in this reality. There's a whole bunch of stories out there that I can share, but I just wanted to share that because that was on my mind. But the L gods are like Yahweh and all of that. We have the Raelian ET people that live in Okinawa, and Claude was a guitarist, and he started the Raelian ET world, where it's supposed to be all about love and trying to keep people young and eating right. But he doesn't believe in prayer. He only believes in meditation. But he said he was visited by people that came down in space, a UFO, and the steps came down, and they asked him to go on board, and he went and had a party with them and came back to talk about it. So you can look up Rael, R-A-E-L. There's controversy over that. That is called a world religion about UFOs. Of course, you also have listed the Scientologists that believe in ET UFOs from another place. And then you also have the Mormons, Latter-day Saints, that believe in Angel Gabriel and came down to Angel Moroni, because the Abrahamic face of Gabriel. So there's a whole bunch we can talk about. But let me let these people pass it around as pastors. Richard, you're the Knights of the Round Table today. And let's hear, because that one I want everybody to learn and make your own decision on a UFO that came down to the Indians, and the story is out there. And also we know all those stories about the beginning before the Lemuria and Mu came down, and then some of them went to Mars, and we also know the Anunnaki stories, and 200 of those went to Mars. So all the stories have got all blended. And so kids today have no clue what to know. They only know what they hear. Now, some people, old people, know what they read. And now it's got all incorporated, because most people have never seen a reptilian. I've never seen one, not even in my dreams. But now we can separate our dreams from our conscious reality, and this was made popular on Oprah Winfrey in 1994 with John Mack. So we'll go into that too. So go ahead, Richard, and then let me mute, and you just work with Marci and Ken, and then we'll come back. We got 35 minutes to just discuss you three and whatever you relate to.
All right. Well, where to begin? Because there's all kinds of tales, reports, and stories of alien beings living under the earth, which is kind of like it goes along with H.R. Tolkien, people, Middle Earth people in a manner of speaking. But these are aliens of highly developed skills and intelligence, and I guess you could say that they were colonies, and somehow or other they decided that rather than walking among us, they would live beneath us. Then there are also tales and stories about alien civilizations in the very, very farthest depths of the ocean. So you have sea beings as well, or at least beings that are living somehow under the oceans, and then in turn their craft come up out of the waves, sometimes in lakes, sometimes in the ocean itself, and they fly around and then they return to their base in the oceans or in the waters. Personally, I have, of course, been abducted when I was 5 years old. I believe the race of being were Arcturians at the time, and they put a tracking device in my nose or my nasal cavity that would remain there basically for 30 years. And the whole point of it was so that they could measure humans' reactions emotionally to me as a given individual, simply because I was born with all kinds of extra gifts, one could say, or spiritual awareness. Then in turn, in addition to that, I met a group in the Santa Cruz Mountains, and they claimed to be from the Pleiades, and they actually put on a demonstration in New York in front of the press, where they actually showed the press that, yes, they were sentient beings of a far different civilization than our own. They appeared in front of the press, and they actually walked through walls. And then they came back, and then they told them very frankly that, when their time was up, that it was time for them to go, and they instantaneously disappeared right in front of their eyes. So sort of like Star Trek, they were beamed back to wherever their ship was, and that's where they took off. And I then in turn ran into a group that was being fostered by them, you could say, in the Santa Cruz Mountains as well. And they had all kinds of videotapes and all kinds of tapes, recordings and so forth. And they were very well organized, and they were very much friendly and very much akin to mankind. And they looked very similar to us, except they had a very goldish tinge to their skin. And then there was one other instance, and I'm not sure exactly who was pulling the remote strings, but I watched an individual give a presentation in regards to the Syrians, and then in turn he basically was not there mentally. In other words, he presented and answered questions and everything else, and he was perfectly well intelligent and everything else, but when you went to ask him questions in regards to his own person and his own personality, he would just give you a blank stare. So anyway, so yes, I've had encounters astrally, out-of-body experiences with all kinds of ETs, the Pleiadians, the Syrians, the Andromedans, and all of these are different cultures and different civilizations on different planets, and some in very faraway galaxies, and some even in different universes. So, yes, extraterrestrials have been among us. We are perhaps their descendants in some ways, because originally there were civilizations in all created that in turn, were Earth colonies, and then in turn there were plantings, and in turn you could say that a great many of us may well be intermixed or interblended with their DNA. And how you could decipher that, I don't know, because I don't know that we have that technology as of the moment. But then again, I mean, I have limited knowledge to a large extent, in the fact being that, I have only my opinion based upon my experiences. Marci?
Yeah. I've been on this spiritual journey. I'm turning 60 this month, and my books are, when I started when I was about 20, where I got contacted by my grandfather saying I was meant to be a psychic when I was 25, which is funny what Richard's saying. Santa Cruz, I was living in Scotts Valley, which is right next to Santa Cruz, and I was sent up to Colorado on my 25th birthday or around there, and working on around 1989, different beings that I got thrown into working with on the way back from Colorado to California, where I lived in the Bay Area, and I grew up, my car got teleported. And so I was with somebody, and we were on our way to California. All of a sudden, it said Wyoming to, such and such miles. We had lost 2 hours. And I'm just jumping into different time zones as to what's going on, but I've been guided. When I was 29, I went up to Spokane, and Suzanne did a bunch of channel drawings. One, I realized through the years, it was like my Lorana lifetime. It was like saying that I'm from 36 years away, a golden energy, which I now know is Sirius. And so piecing these different parts of my life together with my golden energy, as I'm getting myself more and more whole, and Richard and I get these intense conversations on energies, vibrations. We see portals. As you clear up more and more your frequency, you will get higher and higher guides. And so I started working on Reno, an international Skype company, for 3 years, and one of my clients started channeling Elohim. I had never heard of Elohim, and then eventually Metatron. And this has been who I have been working with. They come through me. They like what I'm doing. We're all interconnecting on all this, and that's why whatever energies I'm doing, I'm told where to work on people's heart chakras, energy. And I wanted to say with Ken, I feel very strong Lemurian energy with you. I don't know if that part is starting to surface with you or not, but that's kind of like what I got. And so I'm clairvoyant, clairaudient, clairsentient. I was told when I was 21, I do psychokinesis, which is moving and clearing energy. So I've just incorporated that with tones and tarot, and just very much guided, and have many masters around me. Ken, you want to take it?
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to decipher and think about, well, gosh, that's a lot that we each have been through a lot of the similar things. One of the things that when I was, I guess about just in the beginning of my teenagers stuff, and that's when my other brother was killed on the school hayride. At any rate, I started winding up at night being, I guess the closest way to say it is, because I feel like it, was teleported to another dimension, another planet. And one of the interesting places where it was taken for training was this call it a space city if you want to. I mean, gigantic buildings that were, we would probably say at least half a mile high along that time. And this type of experience would come in at night, and then I guess I'd be teleported back into my body back on Earth. A lot of these things that I'm hearing other people talk about are some of the personal experiences that we had, and part of it is to go to their school and their training and be a communication between their species, their planet, their existence, and what's going on here on planet Earth, which has got a long way to go still, but at least people are willing to talk about experiences that they've had, and with extraterrestrials or with even, I guess past lives, if you will, here on this planet that we have. I guess when I get other people that'll sit down and we'll start talking and discussing experiences that we've had and events, then it becomes we get comfortable with realizing that people aren't going to be saying, "Oh, you're a bunch of wackos and you're crazy, whatever it might be." But then whenever they've experienced some of the stuff that I'm hearing from you folks, as well as I've gone through in my own life, I think we're at a point now in this planet of Earth and with the society that lives here that things are coming forward, and we're getting close. I hope it hurries up, that we can become a part of the Intergalactic Space Federation, if you want to call it that, but the existence in other universes and other locations, and that it's not all evil and it's not all bad and it's not all hey, we've got enough of that that's going on here on this planet that hopefully we can move forward on that. So those are just kind of some of the quick thoughts that I was, ouch, that hurt, whatever somebody just did. It blew my ear right off my headset. So anyway, I enjoy getting with people that have had some similar experiences. We'll just sit down and talk and find out that, wow, we may have been at the same training school location on this other planet at about the same time they were. Now, the age you said you were, you're still a youngster, because I'm 78 now, and we're pushing on ahead of that one. So I'm enjoying becoming a part of a group where the people are willing to come forward and talk about things, and we can discuss them and see what feels more real or that we've experienced ourselves. So anyone else listening? Okay. Ouch, that hurt me.
I'll pick up right there.
Okay,
Ken.
Go for it.
Okay.
Thank you.
So 1994, Ken, is, I don't know if you saw John Mack, but he is a very famous author as well, and he helped regress people. And that's basically 26 years later, we're talking about that as being a very real part of who we are now, folks, that we do believe, the majority of us now, and of course, Oprah Winfrey on that show said she wished it happened to her. Of course, they were talking about abductions at the time. Now, this is where you may or may not have been taken through a wall, but she had a man and a woman that John Mack brought on the show with him for his book, and I think they were interviewing the people that had been abducted. So you can go back and look at that on YouTube with Oprah Winfrey, and she puts it on her Oprah channel now, because we're all got our own channels now and out there with Discovery and all these other places, whether it's Dish or satellite. Okay, but I still have cable. I have MediaCom cable, but the key here is to remember, back in the day when we were all writing about this, they said they saw the Whitley Strieber book right there on the show, which made the kids remember. I guess they're old now. Like, 50s now. Well, let's see, 94. The 26 years later, yeah, they're in their 40s or late 50s now, because they were, like early 20s, I think, or 18 and 20, a boy and a girl. So you can go back and look at that. That's how long we've been talking about this, entertainment and spiritually. And so spiritually, through the books that have been written, and people read them, and they become very well known, including Zachariah Sitchin's books, The 12th Planet, and the Anunnaki stories. That means, Anunnaki, those from the heavens came, basically, when you break it down, Sumerian and Akkadian, over in Iraq, in Iran, where they thought we came from in Iraq. And you'll hear the Abrahamic face of the Hebrews and the Jews and the Christians. And of course, we had the pagans back then. So that's the ones basically where they had so many books that are not. And I don't know what that sound is, because there's nobody on. Isn't that interesting? It's not me. And let me see if that's just because I've got Ken on. But Ken, don't go away. I'm just going to mute you for a minute. So I guess these are very sensitive phones we've got, folks. So this group of people have been called together, I believe, for a higher purpose, including those of you listening today, because I don't know if you've noticed on the news, but even though it was about the same time in the 90s, of course, we've always had UFOs coming and going. We've always had extraterrestrials coming and going. We've always had God source, or those with more power than we have, coming and going. Now, there are some grays that we talk about. Those are the ones that are most famous in the movies. They're all types of grays, like they're humanoids with a head, torso, legs, and arms, okay? So they're considered humanoids, but they are said, now there's two thoughts, that the little grays, there's all types of grays. A lot of you may not know that, but there's as many grays, at least, as there are human beings on the planet. So there's some that come from different universes. There's some universes that have galaxies that are not habitable. Of course, it's just like here. So you think about it like we have in our solar system. and our Earth wraps around the sun, and so we have gravity, and we're studying the magnetic force, and how it all works in the core of our planet, and how all that works to keep us spinning in the solar system. So everything we used to know on the planet is wrong, basically. So now we're going through a very important time we call the Ascension Age, where we're raising our consciousness and our awareness, and we're working together. But most of the time we were too shy, if we'd been abducted by aliens, to talk about it. But after thousands came forward in 94, and Whitley Strieber, of course, helped, Shirley MacLaine, John Mack, and many, many others, including Robert Monroe and the Monroe Institute, and Life After Life. And then I am one of those that I'd like everybody to understand that when you die and you don't die, it's like they call life after life. So I, from the time I was a child, am called a CE5, Close Encounter of the Fifth Kind, according to Dr. J. Allen Hynek. And you may have recently seen on History Channel Project Blue Book. Well, he asked me to keep the fire burning or keep the stories going because he was having financial issues at the time in space on the plane that he talked to me about it. But he had I remember talking to a gentleman, and I don't know if it was him or not in the beginning, about my Q clearance when I was re-upped in the military and got a clearance at Lowry Air Force Base with the Air Force. But I do remember him meeting me, and maybe I was supposed to meet him before or after. I'm getting, believe it or not, going through life, you're not that interested in the whole reality of life after death, and UFOs are putting it together. And I had seen angels when I was a child, so I died at, I had extraterrestrials train me about their life and their reality and that family off planet. So when the Sputnik came over in 57, I knew all about it and tell my parents about it. So needless to say, a child that knows about extraterrestrials is a very unique difference. So they thought I had a wild imagination because I was talking about family in space. But then I was missing one time, so I wrote about that in UFO Digest in Canada. So that was sort of how I got known as TJ Morris ET, for those of you listening, because it wasn't about being a person to talk about it, but you have this spiritual calling to answer to those above that are talking to you. So that is your direct connection. And so one thing about the Catholic Church that we decided was we didn't need the Pope to talk to us, or in the Latin, our language we didn't understand, our being the receiver for us, that we could go direct. So we became Protestants, and this is in our history, so we could go direct. So what's happened is when we die, and we know there is no such thing as death, we know we're just passing over. Now here is what's happening now in this reality. We don't know the difference between death and dying, dimensions, and the various levels of the universes. So we've got this quantum theory going on, and we have math. We have a lot of different languages, including math, and we have very few polymaths left, but we're working with one or two of them to help all of us. Now, let's talk about how we can, I'm going to go back to Richard, and I'm going to mute. Richard, let's have a round of if anybody feels comfortable about talking about the difference between what they thought of as children, or if they had a death or dying experience, because I died as a child, and then I died having placenta previa with my daughter, and I got brought back, and we can go into all these details later through the shows. And I still believed in God and angels. And then when my husband died in 2015, I died again because we separated at the navel, so to speak. And then I was taken aboard a ship, a huge, gigantic ship where I met Jesus as far as I'm concerned. He didn't say that, but the human that in my reality, okay, and this is what they say about these leaders and these gods that, and there's demigods. So there's Ekankar, and they'll teach you different divisions and how many 7, and there's gods at each level, demigods. so you can't get into this group or this astral plane. So this is a whole history of people that have learned different things in the New Thought communities based on religions, and we've blended them all together in all these divisions, realms, levels, tiers, and we adopted it into the computers. So now we've got to separate how we think of virtual reality inside the computer, how we think of death and dying, and then some people in the theory of everything even believe that this is nothing but like the movie with Keanu Reeves, that this is just a figment of our imaginations inside a computer somewhere. So that's another thing with several people written books about the theory of everything, and we're trying to cover everything, but we can't get to all the different theories today. So let's just talk, do a round, as we call it, for Richard. He's the head of the ACO Knights of the Round Table, and then he will go down. I'll turn back on each person, but if you can hit your mute button on your phone when you're not talking. So Richard, let's talk about death and dying, or if each person had a round of that, so we can cover that, because we've got people here listening right on the board right now. So we're going to start with you, and let me unmute Marci and Ken, and hope that y'all can mute unless Richard talks directly. So Richard, death and dying, and how we do that, and then later, the next round may be dream state and ETs when the other girl comes on later, Gigi. Okay, I'm going to mute. Your turn, Richard. Another round. Death and dying.
All right. Well, my most significant death and dying experience was at the age of 14. I was supposedly had appendicitis, and it turned out that I had died of Christmas tree mesentery because basically I had a tree sapling that was growing up inside of me. And during, of course, this experience, I was started out without a body and watched the whole operation and heard all the doctors and the nurses discussing everything and watched what transpired beneath me. And then I flew out into the night sky and went through the tunnel, which a lot of people are familiar with and a lot of people have experienced. It's kind of a multicolored tunnel, and I think it's a portal more or less that leads you to a different dimension per se. And of course I saw what my perception of God was, and I was shown the book of life, and I was told in no uncertain terms there were lots of things that I was supposed to do that I hadn't accomplished yet and that I needed to come back here. I also experienced the presence of angels, and so that's the short and sweet of it. And of course this was in turn demonstrated to me as part of reality, because my stepdad, who was on the mark basically for all the expenses, was never billed anything from the hospital. I was legally declared dead for 33 minutes. And it was very, very unusual and very, very bizarre. And the thing of it is, I was more open to that experience as being real than I was to what was going on around me inside the hospital. Kind of hard to describe and hard to explain, but I insisted that they show me the growth that they had taken out of me the following day. And of course they were all flabbergasted because they had no idea as to how or why I could possibly know of its existence. And so they actually brought it from the lab and showed it to me and so forth. There were never any bills from the hospital, and the doctor who performed the surgery was German national, and he actually went back to Germany after the fact because I guess they were all afraid that they may get sued for malpractice or something of that nature. So anyway, I have always perceived that we are spiritual beings having a human experience and not human beings trying to find the spiritual outside of ourselves. I have had lots of other instances where there were close calls to death. I had pneumonia that took me all the way to death's door. I was so weak I could barely breathe, I could barely even move, and I was nursed back to health. I was visited by angels at that time, and I was told, that I would be comforted and so forth, and that I was being brought back to regular physical strength. And there were other similar situations, but a great many out-of-body experiences in comparison to those that were drastically different, in the fact being that naturally I had left the body completely, and it was only by God's will that I would say that I was returned. So again, it comes to the reality or the choice in reality. Is this just our imagination, or is this something that actually we physically, emotionally, mentally, and spiritually experienced at the time? And of course, my opinion is very strongly laid towards the instance that yes, we are spiritual beings, and when we have the freedom away from our bodies, we take great extravagant leaps at times to visit with other cultures and other civilizations and angels and angelic beings and ascended masters and all of these kind of folks. Marci?
I just do a different aspect. I haven't had a near-death experience, but I am a medium as well as a channeler. The channeler, I channel the masters. The medium, I channel the people that have passed away. And a lot of times there's incompleteness on their end where they hang around us until whatever our situation is, that they help us work it through. If there's an incompleteness, I have had it where things have been moved, called apports. A friend of mine and I in Spokane, we did the masters where we would hear trumpets literally in the sky. We would have apports come down where we had beads. Abe Lincoln came through. Elvis came through and gave Katie, the mother, a scarf. So there's many ways that we're contacted. I'm just more of a conduit to help people release or complete whatever their energy is, as far as different messages that aren't completed when people die, and they hang around until it's complete. There's one person I'm working on now. Her son died in September, and his white light was almost there, but he's still not complete yet until she's like secure with whatever she's going through, or people will say a white rose, or I will get visions of only what the people would know as far as the energies, and sometimes it's visual, sometimes it's audio, sometimes it's kinesthetic. And so people, when they're psychic, it's like, I can't see. Well, you may be clairaudient or clairvoyant. Just because you can't see doesn't mean you have another aspect where you could feel or hear the entities that are around or the guides that are happening. And off to you, Ken.
Okay. I'm beginning to pick up the fact that most all of us have had a life and death experience. And let me throw in real fast on mine. When I was born, I had a cyst over my left eye and eyebrow, and that was back in the days when they used to use ether to put you to sleep while they operated on. Well, when they did me, my heart stopped beating. I was out of body as a little kid. I was only 3 years old at the time. As I'm watching the doctor, he just threw his operating utensils and things like that in the air, grabbed me, and started giving me mouth-to-mouth resuscitation, which was brand new in the medicals back in 1942. At any rate, very quickly I started breathing again and basically came back to life. Well, that was at the age of 3. Now, later on in life, there were experiences where I know that I died, auto accidents, and then I had let's call them guides, if you will, that came to me and says, "No, you're not through yet. There's more that you're supposed to do." And so I recovered from that. So correct me if I'm wrong there, Richard. It sounds to me like you went through a life and death experience where you were aware that, in my case, I was standing off to the side and I was watching the doctor try to restore breathing and heartbeat and life. So I'm thinking that maybe that's kind of an indication on some of us that we've already experienced past life. And then as I grew up as a young, not even teenager, grade school, there were times when I would, at night, when I'd go to sleep, I would be taken to another planet, place, someplace in the universe, and get training and experience an awful lot of the events and things, the locations. There was one time I was in in a planet where the buildings must have been at least a mile high, and I could go out on a balcony. I could look and I could see crafts zooming in and landing in other locations. There are all kinds of experiences that I had. And of course, you don't talk about those things very much when you're with NASA and one of the civilian astronauts and things, because people are going to say, "Oh, you're crazy, aren't you?" But you know what? When you wind up with other people, such as I am today, talking with you folks, as well as I'm sure those that are listening in, wouldn't it be interesting to discover how many of us have had this life-death experience? And we are discovering that, deity's not through with us yet, and we still have a job to do, and maybe this is part of it. So I'm joining in to just bring my past experience and see if it matches good with some of the others, and then we can come to a realization of what we're being expected to do, because we obviously have a job, if you want to call it a job.
Thank you. That was good. Yeah, you led right into dreams. And yes, folks, a lot of you may be using your imaginations. This is true, but also dream state. And Susan Wyman Flynn is our dream state person that's really studied for years with some of the professionals in that dream realm and how they will interpret dreams. And there's a lot of books out there. So what we'll do now is there's different levels of consciousness. Now, there's some yogis out there. I don't know if any of you do yoga or believe in it or Buddhist, or there's all types of world religions, and we are unconditional love, and we're all seekers, and we're all, we call ourselves light workers and truth seekers. We all work with the light, that which we can see that becomes information, knowledge, and wisdom. And we have various tiers and various words in epistemology and ontology. And we've recently lost one of our people, and her last name was Windsor Craig, but she was my lady in Facebook social media that would pick a word and help us learn what the words were. So communication is very important. She's passed over the other side. And then we have people in physics and, of course, neuroscience, the doctors in the medical and our Ascension Center and those that work in cancer. But let's talk about now the levels of consciousness, because the yogis have a different way. Now, a lot of the people in the theory of everything believe that there's only consciousness and the mindfulness movement, and a lot of the big speakers out there that started years and years and years ago, back, way before Tony Robbins even, and way before Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, but that's back in the day. And a lot of us are thought of as New Thought teaching in the 60s, when we had a motivational speaking to raise consciousness during the Vietnam War. So a lot of the children that have grown up now hear us talking, and it was like the hippie generation that was make love, not war. And we didn't want to go to Vietnam, and the kids that were going to Vietnam, that's in this world and on this planet, in this country, the United States of America. And so some of them went to Canada to escape their enlistment card, which was made to draft. Now, when I've worked off planet, there are different groups that go for 2 years, and according to my husband that's passed, his group of people, aliens that worked with my people, they would, off space, we both worked in the area of what they call the Galaxy Federation, not the one Stargate Federation, or the Federation of Planets, maybe. I don't even know what they had now. I can't remember. I used to be quite the Trekkie, but these kids today can put me to shame. A lot of people from the 60s when Star Trek came forward. But there were a lot of people that went Star Trek in that wanted to explore and research and have all these things in, that now have helped us go 100 years from now into the future to see how we are using lasers and things. And we've got the tablets now, like on Star Wars, and we had the flip phones for a while that they used to communicate, so that really affected us. We had Star Wars, and that comes all the way back to the Lyran Wars, from what I understand. And George, the gentleman that started Star Trek, was Gene Roddenberry, and he went to the Ennead 9 meetings with Chandler's. So a lot of what we have today in the New Age and all the books that came out in the occult metaphysical bookstores, they go all the way back to Madame Blavatsky, and even before her, there's people that wrote books, and so they come from the study of the unknown wisdom and the ancient mystery schools, and then Richard studied all that and went over to Egypt and got all that, and then we have a lot of people that study that came from our Atlantis, Mu, and from the stars. So all of these stories that you hear, including those in the canon of the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, everything has been written, rewritten, reinterpreted, translated, different languages. So what we've got to do now is realize that everything's open for interpretation, but we have to open our minds enough to realize that we may all be saying the same thing, and we want to reach unity and diversity because that's what makes up all the universes. There are some universes out there that cannot withstand the type of life that we are here. So what we're here today to do is introduce to you that extraterrestrials are real, alien civilizations exist, UFOs are real, and we now call them unidentified anomalous phenomena, and we have a division for UAP associates. But we also have Psychic Network channel, and we're going to help people learn to use their extrasensory or their sixth sense, or those that talk direct, and how we are going to graduate into the fifth, sixth, seventh dimension, all these other dimensions. But it doesn't matter if you can't keep your body alive on this planet. So we have this Be Here Now movement as well. So we don't want to poison the planet because we need the ground. We need to take care of this planet. We're called terraformers, and that's why we're called Terrans on this planet. And we're sent here intentionally to steward Mother Nature is the way we say it out there, but we say nature's God. And Mother God in the way that we talk is Mother Nature. So we have a Mother Nature and a God Father Sky, or we have Mother God and Father God. So these are words, and you shouldn't be offended by terms because it depends on, really, I go into many, many circles, and they're called your insider or outsider. If you go over to an Indian reservation, you may or may not be welcomed depending on if they look at you and they can see some of them in you and accept you into their clan. Same thing is in various countries and various ways that we have traditions and the way we think. And so here we're going to accept those that feel like they are universal life, they are extraterrestrial, they are people of the cosmos, and they may or may not know psychically and consciously, or maybe, as the yogis say, they study their whole lives to learn about the awareness and the rest of their bodies besides their brain, mind, consciousness, okay? And so the yogis, when you learn meditation and learn how the rest of your body works, including your nervous system and everything that makes you up in this vehicle, it's very sacred. And the Avatar movies that you see with the blue people, there are some blue people out there, and I've seen some. So now let's talk about the levels. We have beta, alpha, theta. Beta is what I'm talking in now. Alpha is like that subconscious. We have theta, which is like superconscious. And the way we were doing back in the day, Project Stargate with the government, Fort Meade and Monroe Institute, and teaching people how to use their minds was because the Russians were doing it, and we wanted to do it too. So that became remote viewing, and some people got very good at it. So all this is combined because a lot of the UFOs were already using, and I've seen some of this. So I'm going to start telling my story, C5 story, which I've never put together for anybody. I have written a few books out there, but they're only in pieces. But where you use your mind and you can think it. And my husband had one of the UFOs, we called him Gus, the Galaxy Universal Shuttle, make it where it would make his coffee, and I've seen him make humans or clones. And so I've got all these stories to tell you, and some of them are in different books I've written, different pieces here and there. But right now, let's do a round. Let me see if Miss Gigi's shown up. Let's see. What's her number start with, Richard? You're live and on the air, Richard. Can you hear me?
470.
I don't see her yet. All right. Well, Richard, let's talk about beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, sigma, and tau. So we have 7 levels. And basically on this planet, they can see beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma. That's your 5 levels you'll see if you go to the hospital, Richard. I'm sure you've had an EKG. But for you, with Marci and Ken, so they can get an idea. You know, when John Mack was talking to these people, and they said they were abducted at night, but they were sleeping, and they woke up to see these beings, then they say they were the Greys. Now, that's really a common thing, and some of them were taken, abducted, had implants, things on them. But now, let's talk about, like, when we also have the awakened state, and I've worked with intelligence levels, men in black, as you have, or people that come at midnight or after. Now, we don't know if they're the National Security Agency, Central Intelligence, our Homeland Security, because we didn't even have it then. But these are people, intelligence, that got a bad rap, but some of them were off playing it. But Richard and I worked in the intelligence community, and we also worked in the military, as did Ken. So you have 3 veterans here that we're bringing in. But it's like Ken said, you really didn't want to talk about it because it'd lock you up in Leavenworth, or people in your cultures would think you were crazy. And my mother always said, Jan, you know, I don't believe in UFOs. And she really didn't. But now, if she was alive, she may come around because it's being accepted. But, Richard, it's not all consciousness, because some of the people teach from their planets their awareness isn't their consciousness. But we need to separate that we are talking now, just folks, because there's a lot of books out there. You can trust us on that part. You will find a book for whatever we speak about. But what we're going to do with the Cosmos Disclosure, with our Ascension Center education and spiritual science and psychic mediums, is blend all this together for you of all the information and all the authors, and how we can start culling it into these YouTubes that come across audio, radio, and we'll also make you some videos. I'm putting out information as I get it as a psychic medium, or some people call it a prophet, because you have direct guides. So you need to understand the difference. If you get direct revelations or divination from your source, your God, your higher level, it's different than that inside you as your higher consciousness. Now, some of these channels that are doing stuff since the Fifth Element, it's got really popular. They do stuff like that, and they believe that that is helping somebody. But is it really? Now, they have some of these people for entertainment coming into radio and interpreting what they're saying, and we don't have people speaking tongues anymore. Not that we ever did, but see, that's up for interpretation depending on, a lot of people were Pentecostal and holy, they were called holy rollers up in the hills, but they were basically Pentecostals, where I lived for 20 years up in the Appalachians, learning how to work with all these people. But what you would do is learn beta, alpha, theta, delta, gamma, and work with neuroscientists. And then as we got into the 6th sense and the Tau, the 6th, and there's Dr. Bruce Lipton out there writing books and going around the world and working with people in India. And then there's the 7th level in your mind. But Richard and Ken and Marci, I know you know what I'm talking about, is how do we help these people? Because here's the deal, folks. As of yesterday, it was Richard and I did a show with Jan Aldrich, and all that we're revealing with all the different UFO groups we worked with around the world, including NICAP, APRO, QFOS, which was the one you see with J. Allen Hynek, Center for UFO Studies, is the fact that we are talking about the nuts and bolts UFOs. But when it comes to the CE5 people like me, there's medical involved, and there's confidentiality agreements and HIPAA laws with their medical files. So now I said I would do ACO International with all these people around the world, but I'm having to go from domestic to international to handle just not North America, but global. And that's a very huge, daunting task, so we're going to need volunteers. So that's where Ken is going to come in, and Pastor Ken will help us with all the volunteers in the directory if they can work in Mexico, because that's where we're going to put Ken. We're going to move these files to the University of Mexico because there's so much after Project Blue Book with J. Allen Hynek and all his people that will help him, and Jan Aldrich and Barry Green, that we need scanners of all the papers. So they've been shipped to Mexico. And so we're real happy that you're there, as well as Norio Hayakawa with our group. And we're going to need a lot more people to help Jan Aldrich. But he will not be doing the CE5 and scanning those to put them on the Internet. But in the meantime, back to you, Richard. And I don't see – wait, did you say 505?
No, I said 470. And we need to clarify that's New Mexico and not the country of Mexico that all the files are being shipped to.
Okay, well, talk to Ken about that. But now the levels of dreams are one level we're going to take. Conscious means conscious awakened state. And then we will teach you, if you don't know, the various levels of CE 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. But it's basically like if you just saw something in space and you want to report it, and it comes back down and you can see it and describe it. If you get far away from it, and then if you actually have contact like I did, one-on-one, that's called a CE5. But now some of these people that are doing their interpretation are conscious connection to a divine source, like prayers, sending, meditation is openness or receiving. We used to say prayers are sending and meditation's receiving. But see, I don't know how you and Ken and Marci, because we're all going to get, all these people that have dreams. Some of them have been abducted. Some feel like they've been very good relations. They've been angels, guides. Some are like Marci said, she's a channel. I'm a channel. I'm sure Ken is. I know you are, Richard. But what it is that you connect to. And then there's like music and notes. So, Richard, back to you and talking about the different levels of the consciousness, and how are we going to tell the ones that believe they're helping themselves or others in tongues, or if they think they're getting something, they may be getting it in colors and tones like Marci, music, but all those things are senses. So we've got to come up with a whole new language in the 7 levels, and there may be one, folks. We're all talking like polymath, math language, music language, color language, all those things, Richard, and then dreams, conscious, and awakened state in between. The kids are talking on TikTok like crazy about the awakened state where they're not sleeping and they're not awake. So they're learning about that in between. So any help? And now I'm going to mute, and you guys can talk about, and I know Marci can, on the difference between how you get something channeled versus how you get dream state. Ken can too. So I'll mute. Back around. I don't see her.
All right. Well, of course, it's very hard at times to determine whether, in fact, you're dreaming or whether, in fact, you're wide awake. We determine this, of course, by brain waves for the most part from the scientific community. That's the different levels that TJ was talking about. And but dreams themselves can be very lucid, they can be very entailed, they can be very involved. And it's very hard to note whether you were actually dreaming or whether actually you were having an out-of-the-body experience. It's also very hard to note in phases of consciousness and in phases of awareness. We speak that, when we are consciously awake, we are basically, having our 3D reality of the material world around us, and we interact with each other physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually in regards to, sharing energy and so forth. When we go to an altered state, all right, that is when you basically have awakened the awareness of expanded consciousness within yourself. And it's kind of hard to describe other than to say that all of your physical senses suddenly expand and you are aware of all that is going on around you. And it is almost like Well, sort of like the Matrix in a way, in the fact being that, yes, in a manner of speaking, you could say that our regular conscious awareness is all entailed and all involved completely in the material world. And yet when we go to sleep, of course, then we are at rest and our mind is allowed to wander, and our imagination kicks in and our dream state kicks in. And of course, if we manage to get to REM state and other states of dreaming, then of course those could also be referred to as places of consciousness or places of awareness. So our awareness kicks in to higher levels when we are attuned or aligned with more and more of our authentic selves or our spiritual being. You could say that when we basically become channels, we become open to the source of all, or God, or however you want to refer them to them, and that basically from there we are open to receive, whether it be the spirits of those who have passed from this world to the next, or whether it be actually ascended masters or intelligent beings from other galaxies, other communities, other cosmos, other realities in all kinds of different dimensions, and so on and so forth. So there is a dimensional scale, there is a conscious scale, and of course I am not a foremost expert thereon, but I have traversed a great many from personal experience, and that is from which I can teach or share. So it's a very fine line, I do believe, and the difference between awareness is the fact that you're using your five senses, or however many senses you have at your disposal, to determine what is going on around you. Consciousness, on the other hand, is the conscious implant, basically, of your going past your mind and becoming more aware or expanded out in consciousness, so that your consciousness exceeds your awareness, or they blend together as conscious awareness. Now, I know that sounds like a lot of double talk, and to some degree it might well be, simply because, your consciousness is your awareness of your physical self. Your consciousness is also your mental consciousness, and then, of course, your emotional consciousness, and also your spiritual consciousness. So when you tune into the quieting of the mind, okay, and you reach past your mental self and you expand out into your spiritual nature and your higher self or your spiritual self, then in turn your awareness shifts, because you're no longer focused on your human beingness, rather you're focused on your spiritualness. And then in turn your spiritualness is completely unlimited. So from that status point you can reach out to any kinds of beings in any universes amongst creation itself. In other words, you're totally unlimited. You can traverse any dimension, you can traverse any galaxy, you can traverse any universe, etc., etc. So consciousness and awareness. Consciousness, like I said, is a base. We refer to it as different mental states within our physical selves, or our brain capacity, per se, that can be measured electronically through electroencephalographs and also other brainwave measuring devices. Our awareness, of course, is simply our awareness of our being, where our being is at. So when you expand your consciousness, you also expand your awareness. So your awareness follows along and expands with your consciousness to the extent that you recognize that you are somewhere other than being in your physical body, and you are no longer presently consciously focused upon what you would normally experience in regular everyday to-day life. So when I channel, for example, if an ascended master comes in, basically what I have done is I have stepped aside, and they are able to utilize my physical self as a vessel to transmit whatever message they want to transmit. Now, whether that be written, whether that be spoken, whether that be visual, whatever it happens to be, because naturally different people learn from different capacities. Some of us learn through hearing, some of us learn through seeing, and some of us actually learn through touch. So It just, we learn through colors, we learn through sounds, we learn through all kinds of different means. And oftentimes, most of us have a blended learning concept. And so our awareness is focused upon how we receive, and our consciousness is how we perceive. So that's the main difference between the two. Marci?
Yeah, that's the reason I wrote my book, Theta, because we learn to be in that brainwave of the theta, to be into higher consciousness, to be calm. I wanted to do a tone as to what the monks use, which is the lower tones, and a lot of times people will see colors coming out when I do the tones, the energies. I'm not going to do too many of them, but when we ascend, which means expand, also the multidimensional, I woke up with that name, healer, and that's like we have many, many dimensions, and each dimension has a frequency, and each frequency has its own rules and regulations. And so as we expand our energies, we'll get chills, our bodies will feel more at peace. There are many ways as to getting into those higher vibrations that are going on. But I don't feel like this is me coming in through. Richard and I get in many conversations, and you can usually see or feel whatever entities, guides that are with us, which usually opens up portals. Also, when we go to 110 hertzes with the sounds and the healings, either we go to our guides or our guides come to us, where we leave our bodies, in which we go into one or many multidimensional energies. Because we can separate as we get those energies going on. So I'm getting these are the Arcturians that are coming in, or they're telling me they're the Arcturians, and they are here to heal us. I was told to do it 3 times, so it's, Mother, Father, God, the triangle. Also with light language, like TJ was talking about, I have done light language where energies or subconscious will come in and give messages. Richard's been able to interpret them sometimes, but they do exist, but they're only at certain times when certain messages need to be said or experienced. Up to you, Ken.
Oh, okay. I'm not
I
sure
don't know
exactly.
if you were feeling that, because if you were feeling anything with the tones or not, but
no, I'm on.
For you too.
Yeah, no, I did, but I'm on just a small cell phone right now, and it's a little. I'm losing a little bit of direct contact. I'm working on it though. So, but no. When we, it's a normal thing. Richard and I always have problems. TJ says her TV goes off and on. It's a frequency. And one of the times my guides or Elohim was coming through, one of the people was channeling Elohim, and I said, we usually get weird things with the sound or sounds coming out, or we get shut off, and they said that my frequency is so high, technology can't handle it. So it's nothing to do with your phone, it's to do with frequency. Just thought I'd tell you that. Okay. No, that's probably the problem I was having here with just a small cell phone. It limits
it's okay.
the
I
capabilities.
want to.
Yeah. At any rate, no, I'm kind of surprised that not surprised. I'm very pleased actually that not only yourself and Richard, we all seem to have had some similar past life experiences, and the opportunity to actually be in another dimension, if you will. And again, you run, when you're involved in the space program as deep as I was and things, you have to be very careful about what you say, because then you don't get to move forward into the whole space program and all that stuff. But anyway, we're now in a phase of learning where not only what we not only what we can do in education and training here, but from what we can gain from our other people that are willing to share the experiences that they've had. And that's one of the things that I'm enjoying, is sitting back and finding out that there are a lot of things that I've kept quiet that I've experienced in my life is not strange at all. It's something that other people have shared, and I really appreciate it.
Very normal.
Yes, it is now.
It's like with Rich and I getting into long conversations, astral projections. This is why I wrote my book on my spiritual journey, as to from when I was born up until like May, and Richard's in my book. And it's not just all of a sudden people are just suddenly spiritual. It's a lot of journeys, and what Elohim says is we test people. If you pass the test, we give you opportunities. Nothing to do with religion, but that's how they work. And that's why I started my group, and that's why they came through, when I was working on Reno, because I was going to do an international group. And I do talk to people internationally, and it makes them feel more normal, that they haven't lost their mind. And I love Project Blue Book. I love to do with the astronauts and the aliens. But the way they explain what I read with Chiron with the space shuttles is it's kind of like the little metal boats that they have, because the aliens are so much far advanced than we are, and they can appear and disappear in speed and light and transit. And when they contact you with a frequency, that's how they work.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was thinking somebody else was going to step in. No, that's true. It's the way they were. Go ahead,
TJ.
Thank you.
Ken, I'd like you to learn about the solar system and the heliosphere as a solar ambassador. And they're teaching that now to the kids, because folks, those that are into math, higher math and quantum physics, we work with those in the STEM program, STEM. That's for science, technology, engineering, and math. And around the world, this is going to be like maybe in North Korea, the ones that are more chosen to go to space, but they do their math. Now, not everyone's brain is so left brain. So in the educational system that some people don't understand you've got to look at the history of all the world religions, all those that came before, and somehow through maybe it got ruined or burned up, or the books got burned during Hitler's regime or whatever. The fact is, in our spiritual community, we have the verbal spoken word that we've always passed down. But the science, technology, engineering, math, and the heliosphere. Now, the heliosphere is like this region that is influenced by the sun or the plasma, the solar wind, and that's around the sun. And then the heliopause is the boundary of that, okay, the sphere region around the sun, and that's filled with solar magnetic fields. And we're really concerned about the plasma and what we call solar flares. Okay, so the bubble of the heliosphere is inflated by plasma that comes from the sun, but they call that a solar wind, even though there really isn't any wind in space. So we're going to get into things that we hope you find and let us know, because Ken actually was into astronautics and working at NASA, and he used to have space equipment, so we may welcome some astronomers and, of course, cosmologists, but we're also going to run up against all those helping those children in science, technology, engineering, and math. And now with the cyberspace community, we have our cyberspace culture. But, Ken, you were called the Solar Ambassador, and I was called the Cosmos Ambassador. And so it was my job to work on all the universal levels, but I also was assigned that in space. Some people call it the 20 years and back. And my husband and I worked on the 20 years and back. And basically, he spent 20 years on the planet here and passed and went back to where he's from. So it works both ways. But he and I, we only had to give 2. Now, on the planet, when I came in, I gave 50 years to the U.S., this country where I was born, for those of you listening internationally. But that's just on the paperwork. That's not from my soul level, because I have many, many lifetimes. You know, as we say, every universe, you know, we're billions of years old. Now, some of the grays we worked with that came from the future of us, meaning in the now, past, present, future, and we worked and we used the 72 archetypes because of our 33 and 22 and our 23 and 23 from male and female chromosomes. But a lot of them that are us in the future can't and do not procreate with us. And then there's some that are on the planet. How the Raelian, Claude, what was Claude's last name? I forgot already. I think it was Claude, but Rael in his UFO group, but he was called extraterrestrial. He wears a star with the famous occult, like the thing that Hitler used in the middle of it. So his group was very controversial, but he said he worked with the Elohim, which are the Elohim gods, like the El gods, and there, we talk about them in Egypt as well. Richard probably knows much more about the El gods, but I worked with Elohim.
With DJ.
Yeah, that's a name. There's 72 names of God in the Old New Testament sort of updates, but the Elohim is for gods or deities, and there's other words in Hebrew other than the Elohim, but the 7 names and then the 72 names. But God, if you're religious or believe in a God, Elohim was one of the names in the Hebrew God. So it was Eloah or Eloah, and I can't say it properly because I don't speak Jewish or Hebrew. But Yahweh, when referring to Yahweh, Elohim. Now, some people say those are Anunnaki, and some people do not. So you're going to hear pros and cons because everybody thinks those from the heavens came because we had some people scribe it in Akkadian and the stone clay tablets. And back in the day, all the languages talk about these gods. And then now one of the things, the stories out of Egypt is that a certain person, and came from up there and erased all the faces, which some are going to be offended, but they say that was Moses. So whether you have to go do your own research on that one and go to Egypt. But a lot of the faces of the past gods were erased. So I'm not going to go into that whole story. I'll tell you who's going into that is Billy Carson. And he is a man of color or black man that is on Gaia now, Gaia, Gaia.com. And a lot of our people that talk these stories, that got lots and lots of followers, hundreds of thousands, have moved to GAIA. And when I went to be a speaker before my daughter died in 2018, I spoke about the Galaxy Federation. And I told them I know people don't believe in that. So you can see that, me speaking about that on YouTube. If you look up my name, Theresa J Morris or TJ Morris, E.T., or just look, I have Theresa J Thurmond Morris. But I've been out there for years, but not caring about numbers or anything, just making little videos. But my other daughter that was there made the video of me talking and Gigi talking right off her phone. And I had no idea. Of course, I wasn't very phone literate, nor did I like phones. There's a whole reason for that these phones could do that. But now I'm on YouTube because we use that so you could see my daughter talking about intrinsic realities. But we're learning here, and this business that we're all in, each one of us has our own interests and our own values. But because I'm building this cyberspace culture and everything costs money to get the word out, so we're not just talking to each other and it not going anywhere, is the people that listen to us and come back, they mostly want to come on and be part of the show and get a psychic reading, to be honest with you. But they really like to be part of the show, and that's fine. And we can do one question or do readings. And Marcia, that had the event where we met or we spoke, now has the late show on here. So be sure and listen to her, Marcia Booser-Haney. And I don't know if it's Monday or Thursday at night, but I'll find out psychic readings. All right, we've only got like 25 minutes left, but now let's do open source or open, it's supposed to round table, but Richard, we've got 25 minutes here, and I put on here alienology, the study of aliens, cosmology, study of the cosmos, epistemology, and that's the study of origin and the words and our history, and then we've got ufology, study of UFOs, and expansion of the multiverses, quantum theories. Now, we didn't go much into the theories, but I know of at least 8 theories. But right now we're looking at this, we're working in the photons and the light, but they can only see so far. And so far out there in this reality, they can't see most of the UFOs or the ETs or the extraterrestrials. That's why it's important that those that have come back as CE5 are death, life, and death, or know of their past reincarnations and have built up trust in these other realities or in these other universes or psychic mediums. So it just depends, folks. You'll have to use your own essence, your own morals, integrity. Be skeptical of everything and take what you can and leave the rest that doesn't serve you. And that's what we always say here. But the Ascension Age is really about raising awareness, conscious information, and we want you to help us. And Ken, if you can help us make a directory for all the military people that have some time. We're saying with Ken, the 60 to 135 crowd as the seniors and all our veterans that want to help us with recovering all our UFO files around the world. But Richard, your part and Marci's part, I'd like to put y'all in a direct. Right now, folks, everything costs money, and we're going to have our own database, so we hope you'll come and help us. But we're going to be educational, literary, and church. So, Richard, if you want to talk about what we're trying to do with Ken and Marci and everybody else and just solving problems with how we can all work together for a platform, because everything's going up as they balkanize all the databases, and they are splintering the internet, folks, into, we already got a China wall up with China, and Russia's doing the same thing. So we're separating by countries. We're not going to be able to talk to everybody. But right now we're working with the main 3, like UK, India, Australia, USA, Canada, basically these 5 right now. And we're doing our best to go internationally, Richard, but you know how much time it takes. So, Richard, now talk about the forming of the platform here and, how we can come together to save money as everything goes up. And we hope to help everybody, but slow going, folks, because we've got really a lot of homeless and hungry in America. But each one of us right now on this show are all barely making it ourselves. And we see a lot of people with good jobs that are living in their cars in L.A. and Reno and everywhere. So let's talk a little bit about advancement and change and how we can help each other and see how we can help each other wherever we are and build up what we're doing, Richard. And I'm going to mute. So however you want to take it with Marci and Ken, but at least we'll show up and hold space. So that's something. Go ahead, Richard.
Well, we have a grand task in front of us, indeed. I mean, there's such an amalgamation of information in regards to all kinds of different persons and all kinds of different experiences, all kinds of different specialties, and all of this kind of thing. And, I mean, the platform that we formed is American Communications Online, and that's the umbrella for 40 or 50 different organizations that in turn represents veterans. They represent ufology, alienology. They represent the healing groups. They represent the consciousness groups. They represent all kinds of different facets, and it's really difficult to bring it all together under one platform simply because the only unity that can be really had is the fact that we are attempting to join together to better not only each other but also ourselves along the way. And this is kind of a difficult process in cyberspace, just as it is, of course, in regular reality. And the two basically go hand in hand to a large extent. We have, of course, marketing, which is done through radio. It's also done through YouTube. It's also done through Spreaker and a number of other platforms and so forth. And as a result of that, we are forming directories per se. And, of course, I'm sure that you're very familiar, Ken, with, the directory of who's who in reference to, the astronautical area of things. And, of course, Marci, you're becoming aware of the directory of, like, psychic mediums and channels and energy workers and light workers and that kind of thing. And so we're trying to put together kind of a nexus, you could say, in a manner of speaking, so that we have a conglomerate group that entails all kinds of different interests and all kinds of different specialties, yet at the same time, we all are sharing in the fact being that we are all consciously aware that there's more to life than just the everyday material world. Ken, might you speak on what you would like to offer, or how involved you would like to become?
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I was just going to add something to what you're saying. And one of the things that a lot of people might not know is that, for instance, when there's somebody new comes on and I want to do a little checking in on there's a book that I use, and it's called Who's Who in Science and Engineering, since that's more my area, more than, even though I have gone the religious side and become a minister as well. But Who's Who in Science and Engineering, I've got, it's a gigantic book, 8.5 by 11 and about 3 inches thick nearly, or more than that. One I'm looking at right now, 1904 to 1995. That was the second edition when they came out. But that's one way you can go through and you can check people and find out what their education is, what their objectives are. It's a very good little, maybe a short couple of paragraphs of each person inside this book of just thousands of people. So that's something I can offer right now. If you're interested and you want to find out who's who, then go check it out in the science and engineering, or there probably is another branch that's not just science and engineering. So I'm available to help because of my training and background in engineering and space and science, as well as the religious side. If you really are involved, I think you've got to take into consideration everything you can, and that's been a pleasure that I've had. And unfortunately, I really sincerely, and TJ, you can attest to this, I've been trying to, the forces some places have tried to take me out of the realm, and you get attacked and run over by an automobile or this, that, and stuff like that, and you're still alive. You start to realize maybe you have a duty or an opportunity, and you can try to increase knowledge as well as faith, and that's kind of where I'm at now. I'm growing in experience and knowledge and working with some very fine people. So I appreciate that. I keep this little small cell phone is not the way to communicate in this program. So if you keep hearing chimes, it's just simply because I'm holding this thing, and I'll get a little bit more technology. All right, thanks a lot.
You did good, Ken, and we really appreciate your leadership, folks. He's spent a lot of time on the planet, and like you said, he's, I guess for all of us in this group, something's tried to take us out, or in a car. I've had a truck accident, broke my neck and back, and recently had my brakes go out completely. It's a 1,300 brake job. It looked like somebody cut them, but they said it exploded. So things happen around, and you don't know if it's meant, or if it was somebody, it's like the Bob Lazar story, which we could cover a little bit, because he worked for Naval Intelligence for 6 months, and he got on. His story is believable to me because of the things I've been through, and I went in and out of Las Vegas a lot. So, we're going to help give you stories that you may or may not believe in, and, all we can do is provide it to you and let you decide whether it works with you and what you resonate with. And we're here just to tell you our experiences, because as psychic mediums, Ken is actually has a master's in metaphysics, and he can help teach certain things. But we're working with him now in our golden years and as our retired veterans, because of our neuroplasticity, not only in our brains as seniors, because we have to re-educate all our humanoids, our carbon-based units on the planet as a species, to know that everything is repairable, not just your brain or your neurofibers, your entire human body. And if you can stick around and start using and be relevant and be inside cyber.
You're fading away.
Actually, she disappeared. This is Ken.
I disappeared?
Yeah, you faded away.
Whoa. Well, that's what
And you're fading away again.
Oh, she just went blip and went gone.
It's all
Kindly come back to the radar to participate.
I'm on the good phone. Can you hear me now? Let me sit up. You think it has to be close to the window? I live in a brick home.
Yeah, it might help.
Yeah, I don't. I literally live in a brick home. I'm sitting on my couch, and I've got this Samsung, but I do need a new phone. I need to upgrade because we're on 5G here. And even if you've had divine guidance, doesn't necessarily mean that you get all the physical material stuff you need on the planet. And that's a whole nother show for everybody. We're going to help everybody in the minimalistic level, but we definitely need to help everybody on the planet get the basics of food, clothing, shelter. And in America, it's ridiculous how these people talk about how wonderful they are with all their corporation lobbyists' money on the back. And I'm talking, yes, your leaders that are still in office, folks. How much money are they getting on the back end of what they do in politics? And I shouldn't be talking about that, but that's
no, let's not go there, please. Let's not go there.
That is our reality. So what we're going to do is do our best to form a corporation that is nonprofit and work as a fundraiser for us, so we don't have to worry about taking any money from our government to do what we do. So right now, like Ken said, we should have a who's who, if he's willing to help us with the list, or maybe edit or put up some ideas with everybody else that wants to assist us. And Ken, I have UAP Associates as my blog that was recommended. That's about $100. And then director at...
We lost her again?
Yeah,
you faded out again.
It's somebody on my computer. It was my computer. All right, so heliosphere and making a who's who was Ken's. Can you remember heliosphere, the vast bubble-like region of space? So you're going to be our solar ambassador. And I will work on the higher universes, because that's where the multi-universes with the quantum theory. And we have a lot of quantum science and working with the mind. I guess, Ken, is, if it's okay, Marci, apparently Richard's appointed Marci to help us. Marci, how do you feel about helping us with the psychic directory for people that may want to be in it? Can we make a list?
I'm fine. I have plenty of time now. Like, the state cut back more hours, so I'm technically only working 8 hours a week. So,
okay.
And so I'm good. I got plenty of time now.
All right.
The universe sends me somewhere else.
All right. Well, you may want to get with me on the domains, and we've got a pro board. I don't know if I'm going to keep it, but this is all stuff in the internet, folks, that you don't really have to know. But if you do have a business and you are an entrepreneur and you would like to work with us, you can go on YouTube right now, or you can join us. We have ACO Association. We have ACIR Radio. We have TJ Morris Radio. And we have a lot of YouTubes out there, including Psychic Channel Network. And if you'll hit the logo for Psychic Channel Network, hit it, and then it'll take you to the ones I'm making, because they have a lot of them on YouTube that go out to the side when you look at it, at least on my end. And those aren't the ones, they put a lot of other psychic people, famous psychics, next to my logo. But that's not mine. So I figured out I have to hit it in YouTube, and it'll take me to my channel. So it's Psychic Channel Network for me, Marci, Richard, and Ken. And I guess we'll divine who we are and how the cosmos works at various levels and different groups. But mostly what I've heard of here, Marci and Ken and Richard, are those working on the ones that have been the authors of the books and the characters and the myths and legends that have been left on the planet. And then Stuart Swerdlow, the Russian that's over in Michigan, I believe, because he's next to Marta Thomas of Chicago, Illinois, Stuart and Janet Swerdlow. Stuart Swerdlow teaches, but he brought up a lot of knowledge that some people like to track, and Lynn Caston, I think, cited him. So we like to be open source intelligence, folks, and cite who our authors are. And so we have an authors club. If you've written a book like Marci or me or Ken or Richard, and we can list you in your book, and hopefully after time goes, about a year from now, maybe your sales will increase. And in our club, we ask you to write a chapter a month, at least one book a year to go and promote on our radio. So that's the least we ask, is one book a year. Most of our people do one every 6 months. Especially during COVID-19, we've had a lot of our authors writing books because they have nothing better to do at home. Of course, I'm up here making domains and trying to do marketing for everybody. But if you'd like to work with us, we're going to have all our names on the same. We're doing 5D experience now, Marci. So let me do 5 folks and then a small d, XPERIENCE. So 5D experience we're building right now. For it's got my gamer worlds, but we've also got world science webinars for online. We're going to teach classes. But first we got to get our train the trainers certified with Ken, me. Ken, you've got yours. I put it up in the certificate on this blog talk so people can see it. So, folks, if you go to blogtalkradio.com/TJ Morris ET Radio and then go into this episode is Cosmos Disclosure, Ascension Center Education, Spiritual Science, Psychic Mediums. It's really long. But look for Cosmos Disclosure. And in the pictures, it rotates on a slide about 10 to 13. They only offer so many. And I put a picture. I put another girl up, but she may have forgot, or she did her show long. But we got her picture up, Ken's picture, Richard's, and mine. And Marci, I'll try to get in and put yours, but I did put your name, Marci Kusich. So we're all pastors working together, and basically we're going to have our church organization, just like Unity Church or Unitarian, any of the. But we're settling, Ken, on unconditional love and do what is right, and all things allowed by law covers it. So, and we're just really a non-denominational gathering of people in the Ascension Age. So we'll see if the paperwork comes back from Florida. So we're registered in Florida. We have a number, and we will continue to build that with everybody. And our veterans are going to help us in the UFO business and UAP business. And the only thing is there's so many groups out there already collect videos and photos. we'll just link them to our UAP.associates. All right, Richard, it's time to sign off. We got 5 minutes if you want to rotate everybody. Anything you want to say on y'all social media free, how to get in touch with you on Facebook, everybody? Go ahead, Richard, I'll mute.
Yeah, well, you can contact me, Richard Knight, on Facebook. I have a profile where it's the Archangel Michael holding a sword facing towards the ground. My regular picture is also amongst my photos. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn, and it's Richard T. Knight on LinkedIn. And then, of course, I can be contacted direct by my initials R and then T and then the last name Knight 35@gmail.com. Marci?
Hi. Well, mine is Marci Kusich 2@gmail.com. My tones are on, if anyone wants to listen to them, people have gotten addicted to them. They're on my YouTube channel under Marci Kusich or Cosmic Cosmos. My book is on Amazon under Marci Kusich. Anybody can LinkedIn me or Facebook me. And Ken, I would love it if you and I could connect. You know, you could probably give a lot to a lot of the people that I'm on my Facebook. So, many different ways to contact me. Ken, over to you.
Yeah, I was going to jump right on in here. The easiest way would be for me to give you my the email address, and that would be Mars1, all spelled together, MARSONE, astronaut, ASTRONAUT, @gmail.com. So that is one way you can contact me direct and personally. And I wanted to say that one of the things I put out there was Ken's Moon, and it's been published, and the subtitle is The Smoking Gun That Revealed the Dark Mission of NASA. And I got in a lot of trouble with publishing some of the things that I knew and was involved in. And those who speak Spanish only, that book is in Spanish also. It's La Luna de Ken. So my objective, and I'm sure it's all the same, is that we just want to get the facts and the truth and work with people and help us all to be prepared to grow with a little more wisdom. That'd be better than just going haywire and we could get into a long discussion about how people mess up their lives. But anyway, so check out Ken's Moon and see if that doesn't help you, and then I'll work with all of us on putting out our own Who's Who science and we'll come up with the right diet. TJ's the best one in that, so I'm going to leave it up to her.
Well, Ken, we're doing spiritual science, Who's Who, and in our spiritual science, we'll have our veterans that want to work with our UAP group, and we'll have our psychic mediums, all those in the metaphysics that work with us in body, mind, spirit. We're doing a newsletter magazine once a month. And we know that if we will focus on this, I'm doing my best to use ACO for Ascension Center Organization. I'm using it for Ascension, Ascension Center Organization, Ascension Church Ohana, for those that want to be in a gathering in our Ohanas for family out of Hawaii. But we also have our ACE Metaphysical Institute. Now we have ACE Folk Life Society for those like we started in the Appalachian and getting music and bluegrass and giving it to the International Bluegrass Music Association. And they've got mine, IBMA, that's their job. And then the Smithsonian does just about everything. And some things they bury really deep. And then, of course, the Pentagon has a library that buries things deep. But we are about getting open source disclosure out there. So we're working to get everything we can that is open to the public. And now, folks, go into the CIA, NSA, FBI, look at all those things in the intelligence community, look at all the things we have in America that is available open source. You'll be surprised how much you can find out about aliens, extraterrestrials, UFOs, UAPs, and it's amazing now. Of course, sometimes you have to know the word, and even Stargate and Monroe Institute and remote viewers, and it all goes together Plus, now our life after life, death and dying, or there is no death. And now, if you will, look up Project Blue Book on the internet, and then look for the movie. Those people did their best to read books, or if there was any films available in Hollywood for them to study the characters. And it's really done a lot for us in the UFO business. And as ufologists and alienologists, the study of aliens. Now, we're going to get into a lot of different things, and we will all help each other. Well, folks, it's all about networking now and being in cyberspace culture, finding people you want to trust and work together. And we vet, we check out our people with their bios and their photos and make sure we're working with good people. So if you couldn't make it this time and you want to be on a show, let any of us know. And on social media, I am Theresa Morris, Theresa Morris on Facebook. I'm also TJ Morris Agency, TJ Morris Reporter. And we do have an ACO club set up, and TJ Morris ET Radio on Facebook. And I've got so many groups, including light workers and truth seekers. I've got Star Trekkers and Star Warriors, if you want to be in those. And we also have Fandom Wiki now. So anybody that wants to help me with fandom for ACO, we have our ACO club, all right, and we have Ascension Age. We're literally writing the future here in space, our own Fandom Wiki for when we have our Cosmos Expo together. Our Ascension Age will have their own annual meeting with all the people, the vendors, the book sellers, the crystal sellers, tarot readers, and speakers, and it's going to be a lot of fun. But here in 21, get ready for our Who's Who book. So, Ken, we'll try to start that. Me and Marci will try to get with you and start getting some people here and working together. So thank you, Richard. So it's Pastor Richard T. Knight and Pastor Ralph Kennedy Johnston Sr., Pastor Kusich, which is Marcikossich. Is that true, Marci?
Yeah, that's where it goes. And my Facebook also says Marcia Ann McLean, so there's two different Facebook groups or something. Either one, if anybody wants to contact me, it's all great. You know,
Marci McLean, McLane.
Yeah, Marcia Ann McLean. That's when I was working on Psychic Powers Network. For some reason, they put that on my Facebook. Or Marci Kusich, which goes into a group. So either one, it's all good.
Well, you say it so fast that I don't know if people catch it. So
Marcia Ann McLean or Marci Kusich, Marcikossich.
All right, and Richard Knight with a K. That's Knight, like Knights of the Round Table. And Ken, if you and Marci and Richard want to do this again Wednesday, I guess Wednesday we can do more readings. But that's usually what people want, is us to do questions and answers and helping them sort out their lives. But, folks, we're life coaches and we're business consultants and entrepreneurs as well as pastors on Sunday. So we will help you with your life to get you from point A to point B. And right now we're working on Who's Who. Love and light, everybody. I guess we're going to get out of here. Thank you, everybody. We'll see you Wednesday, if that's okay with everybody. Thank you. Good show, everybody. Thank you so much.
Yeah,
thank
fantastic.
you, everybody.
Glad I got to come on Sunday. Bye.
Me too, Marci. I hope you can come Wednesday. Thank you, Ken.
I come Wednesday. I got nothing else to do.
Okay.
Have a good evening.
Thank you, Richard.